With all the buzz today about impeachment, and we're waiting to hear from Speaker Pelosi, I thought it was a good time to dust off the charts from history of presidential scandals in this country. President Clinton and impeachment, President Nixon in the 70s. And what you see, if you look at the market charts from both of those periods, there's the Clinton impeachment, is yes, it created some volatility in the initial investigations, but then the market just charged forward. It was a boom time. It was a bull market. It was a good economy. And then if you go back to the 70s and look at the Nixon era, a lot more market turmoil, but it was also coinciding with an oil shock, right, which eventually led to a recession. So hard to glean much, Mike, out of history, except for the fact that it can lead to some uncertainty, I guess, in the overall economy. But both of them
let me draw a
had other
distinction.
factors.
Those impeachments both happened in the second term, right? There were no implications for that president's reelection. And so I think that's one thing you have to keep in mind. The way the market is viewing this is not, is President Trump going to be removed from office? Because presumably that's not really on the table at this point. It's more about how does it affect 2020, and does it kind of create a lot more, kind of turmoil in intergovernmental relations until that point?
What do you think, Niladri?
Well, I think today is just the old adage has to be dusted off, which is markets don't like uncertainty. It doesn't like political uncertainty, economic uncertainty, and trade-related uncertainty. And unfortunately, we got all three of them today. But I'll just step back and say that the fundamentals look really good for stocks, and that's where we're still overweight U.S. equities. When we think about the U.S. economy, it's still fine. The U.S. consumer is fine. The U.S., when we look at the forward-looking indicators for the labor market, the initial claims are still at a low level. We are creating jobs at the rate of 150,000 jobs a month. Wages are rising importantly across the board for every American worker. So this is a solid fundamental story for the U.S. economy, and I don't think this portends that the business cycle is going to end.
But on the big topic of what we might expect out of D.C. later this evening, let's get to Ilan Mui for an update. Ilan?
Well, Wilfred, the Speaker has been meeting with the chairman of the oversight committees. She's also supposed to be meeting with Democratic leadership, and members have already begun arriving for a party meeting that's taking place right now. CNBC has then confirmed that she will announce the start of a formal impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Now, already Pelosi has announced that the House will vote tomorrow on a resolution disapproving of the Trump administration blocking the release of that whistleblower's complaint. Guys, the chairman of the House Intel Committee said today that the whistleblower wants to speak to his committee. He's hoping that that will happen this week. And Democrats are betting that launching a formal inquiry will strengthen their hand and allow them to get that complaint into their hands. Back to you.
Ilan, thank you. Kari, how focused are you on this as an investor?
We've seen impeachment discussion since President Trump was elected, and he's found a way each time to somehow finesse around it. The fact that he was able this afternoon to find a means of releasing the transcript about those phone calls, it's interesting that, and emails, it was interesting that he must have been counseled legally to the extent that they don't feel that there's enough information in the transcripts that could be extremely damaging. At the time of the inquiry about obstruction of justice related to FBI Director Comey, that looked to be a situation where it was be very damaging to the president. He found a way through that. And so as an investor, I can't say that I'm going to start to think through what I would do if he's impeached or when. I just think that there are so many other factors, such as getting this trade war settled and what the earnings are going to look like beginning next week and what happens with the Fed. I'm not going to worry too much about impeachment.